Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. This afternoon, this evening. It's a different time all over the world, and we have people joining us from all over the world. So very excited to have you at this event, which is Going Back to School, a student-led Q&A. My name is Dale Leatherwood. I'm with Columbia Southern University, and I'm so excited to welcome potentially 500 of you to tonight's event. We had over 500 people registering. We look forward to having hopefully hundreds join us live during the event and following on the event to view the recording. Tonight, our goal is to help you learn more about how making going back to school fit, how to make it fit your schedule, your family life, your background, your goals, and your wallet. But rather than just another webinar with a dull presentation, instead we have a terrific group of people just like you on our panel. These are current students and recent alumni who have all dealt with the same challenges you've been thinking about and have made it work with their own best practices and the support of the team here at Columbia Southern University. We're also joined by a fantastic group of faculty members who can share what you can expect in their classes and how to succeed in going back to school. And finally, we have a group of CSU staff members who can speak to questions about admissions, student support, and paying for school. Finally, as this webinar is really about you, we have a Q&A tool that's available to ask your questions throughout the event, and I'll provide information on how to do that here in just a minute. But also, please know, we are recording the event, and we intend to make this recording available to you as quickly as we can, hopefully by the end of the week, so you can follow up, review what we've covered, or if you weren't able to join, know people who weren't able to join, please, you can share that link to anyone you'd like. But first off, I want to introduce our panelists. And we've got, again, a group of students, recent alumni, and faculty. And I'm going to go one by one. They're going to introduce themselves very quickly. First off, Jamie. Jamie, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Jamie Gauthier. I'm an alumni from CSU back in 2003 and 2005. And I'm also a professor of criminal justice in the College of Safety and Emergency Services.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for joining us. Aaron. Dr. Aaron Rohn.
Sorry, I forgot there's two Aarons here, so wasn't sure which one you were calling on. So good evening, good afternoon, or good day, wherever you may be. My name is Dr. Aaron Rohn. Much like Jamie, I am an alumni here from 2013 and 14. Also serve as part-time faculty in the College of Safety and Emergency Services in the Emergency Medical Services Administration programs.
Fantastic. Let's go out west to Alan Lewis.
Hi, my name is Alan Lewis, and I am also a graduate in 2019 of CSU, and I'm currently a professor or an adjunct professor in the College of Safety and Emergency Services.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. And I said out west, that's your original, but I think you're elsewhere, but overseas. So we're so glad you could join us this evening, your time. Amy Johns.
Hi, my name is Amy. I am currently a senior at CSU, majoring in psychology.
Excellent. Great to have you, and hope you're having a great senior year. Christopher Hall.
Hi, I'm Chris Hall. I am currently a senior psychology major at CSU. I chose CSU due to the easy scheduling and the affordability.
Fantastic. I'm not sure if Dr. Katrina Haynes is here joining us. Katrina, are you here? Okay, she might join us momentarily. Harsunda.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rasundar Singh. I'm 20 years old from Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm currently in my third year here at CSU in my undergrad program of BBA.
Fantastic. So happy to have you. Jasmine Thomas.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Thomas. I'm a senior at CSU, majoring in fire administration, concentration in fire investigation, firefighter for New York City Fire Department.
Thank you very much. So happy to have you. Next on our list is Lurie.
Hi, Hi, my name is Lori Shinrock, and I live in Fairbury, Nebraska. I am in my 5th year at CSU pursuing my 3rd degree in occupational safety and health.
Fantastic. And Scott Foreman-Kayowitz. Almost did.
Yes, Foreman-Kayowitz, pretty good.
Right.
Scott Foreman-Kayowitz, I'm a lieutenant paramedic with the City of Beloit Fire Department located in Wisconsin. Recent CSU alumni as of last month. So very happy to be here.
Excellent. Congratulations. And then lastly, Vera Morrison.
Greetings. My name is Vera Morrison. I am an alumni of Columbia Southern University, 2-time alumni, I should say. Recently graduated in 2015. I'm currently in a master's program pursuing my master's degree in emergency management.
Fantastic. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. If I did, please feel free to join in when we do go through the Q&A. But as I mentioned earlier, we have a great group of panelists joining who are involved in all types of staffing areas at CSU, covering admissions, financial aid, student advising, and so forth. They are going to be there to answer your questions via the chat and so forth. So I'm going to get right into the Q&A. And the first question I have is really a very good general question. Many of our students have to address work-life balance while continuing their education. They want to go to an online program because they can do it while they work or raise a family, etc. I'd love for someone here, or more than one person here, to speak to how you were able to make time to earn your degree while keeping work and life a priority at the same time, and particularly those folks who are in the emergency services area, Jasmine, Scott, and others. You balance some really crazy schedules, obviously. So if you could talk a little bit about how you did it, and anyone else who wants to join in, please do.
Sure, if you want me to go first.
Sure, please.
Well, I have a rotating schedule. My husband also is a firefighter, so it's like a balance. We try to balance it between each other. Between that, work, and the children, we try to make it work as far as the kids, when they go to sleep, that's when I really do my schoolwork. I get my workout in, I go to work, but when they go to sleep is when I really get my schoolwork in. So I try to make everything scheduled. I put in a routine. Without a routine, schoolwork wouldn't get done. So it's basically sticking to a routine. That's more than anything for me.
That's great. So routine is key. Scott, do you have add to that?
I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, fitting it into the routine is absolutely key. Luckily, I had the great support of my wife, and also, my fire department as a whole, making sure that they put a concentration on furthering my education. So I was actually allowed time pending any emergency calls, and anybody who's in the field understands it's hit or miss. There's a lot of save and run away, come back, try and do it. So it was a little bit difficult, but I definitely utilized the free time I had at work, and then even here at home, same thing with Jasmine. The kids go to sleep, and then it's time to do schoolwork. So it was a lot of times it was late at night, but it was definitely the balance. I had the support of my department and my family, which really helped.
That's fantastic. Vera, Amy, Chris, any thoughts you want to add to that? Lori?
I can jump in there. For me, when I first began my career in fire service and I started at Columbia Southern, I was 2 online with the 24-48 off schedule. My husband too, Jasmine, is a firefighter as well. So there was that, right? And we were on the same shift, but then we had to change because of family dynamics. I started to raise my granddaughter. But now I'm on the executive level, so I work a 40-hour work week. And I just found that it was easier to work at night. I could go on vacation. I could sit on the beach, take my computer, and still do my schoolwork. I recently, last year, when I enrolled to start my master's degree, maybe a few months later, I got diagnosed with cancer. So I was actually in the hospital doing schoolwork. That's how accessible the courses are, because, you have that set schedule where you can start, a paper or start an assignment, and, you don't have to turn it in for a while. So I was able to manage all of that in between, getting treatment. That was the perfect time getting chemo. I could do schoolwork at the same time. So I was able to just keep moving right along through that program with the support of my husband and, of course, my granddaughter. And I think having those courses, and when I signed up, of course, I didn't know I had cancer, but then I was diagnosed. Quitting school was not an option. That kept me going. So again, it provides you that opportunity to say, I can take this and turn it into something positive and get my education at the same time.
That's fantastic. And you also made me feel bad many years ago when I was a freshman and skipped class because I was sleepy. That's fantastic. Well, those are fantastic. Those are great stories and great reality around balancing school, work, family, and other things that pop up, whether it be illness, promotions, moving, etc. And folks may have questions more about that, but I want to skip to maybe some of the others of you, Shane, Zimmerman has joined, Chris, Amy, etc. I'm wondering, has anyone ever, or anyone else on the panel, has anyone ever started a class and midterm, mid-year, had to consider stopping or stopped due to personal reasons? How did you get back on track? I know people think about the college experiences, you have to, it's a straight line. It's not a straight line, as we all know. And sometimes you stumble, sometimes you have to pause. Did that ever happen to any of you? And if so, how did you pick it back up again and make it work and continue on that path?
Hey, Dale, I'd like to comment on this.
Sure.
I actually had to take extensions, and that's what's great about CSU. You can actually buy a 30 or 60-day extension. If life happens lots of the time, and especially as adults going to school, and you don't have to stop. You just take a pause and then start right back where you were, and you don't lose any time. You just, add another 30 or 60 days on. I mean, it's wonderful how CSU has it set up.
That's fantastic. Great point. Great point. Anyone else have any thoughts on sort of taking a haphazard path towards completion?
Dale, I can add to this as well. After my first probably year and a couple of months, I got to a point where I was feeling a little overwhelmed, and I needed to kind of recenter myself. And I was honestly having some questions as to whether I can handle, work and 4 kids, and my husband and I also own a business that's not related to my work, and then I had schoolwork on top of it. And so I actually took a term off so that I could just have some me time and really, step back and recenter myself so that I would remember what was important, and finishing my degree was what was important.
That's great. I think that self-motivation is critical, but also being realistic with yourself, that it's about you and your goals, and nothing's in a straight line when it comes to higher ed for adults, certainly. I want to go back to Lori, what you were mentioning around the extensions. So that's part of our life-paced learning enrollment option. And I'm wondering if maybe one of our faculty members or one of our admissions leaders can describe how that option works. It's not something that's seen typically in many institutions, but maybe you could talk through how the process works, what the timeframes are, and why the flexibility is an option with life-based learning. Anyone who wants to, on the CSU side, wants to raise their hand and touch into that, would be great.
Sure, Dale, I can jump in for that. Sure. From the faculty perspective. Being CSU offers both a term course, which is somewhat more traditional. It's an 8-week program where you have deadlines for your discussion boards and more engagement with your fellow classmates. We also offer a life-paced learning option where it's a 10-week window where you have a little bit broader opportunity, work at your own pace. There's no deadline for your submission of your academic assignments. And you can kind of work a little bit more one-on-one with your faculty member. So you have that there. And kind of circling back to some of the conversations from Jasmine and Scott and earlier on about their process. One, they both mentioned that their families were engaged in their learning. So as you're preparing for this, make sure your family understands that you're going to have to dedicate some time away to focus on your study. but also know that us as faculty are here for you. We'll schedule calls around your schedule to talk about where you can improve or where something will help you grow in your academic pursuit.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And Jackie Beverly, you and Justin are here representing the folks who actually help students through the process. Maybe talk a little bit about your engagement with students and perhaps even some of the students on this panel, and their ability to engage with you when they have questions about a course, need support, maybe haven't taken a math class in 20 years. How does that process work?
Hey, this is Jacqueline Beverly, Director of the Academic Advising Center. I'd be happy to respond. So specifically for academic advisors, we kind of look at ourselves as kind of first responders to our students. And so, if something comes up, like we are who you can reach out to, and then we will figure out, is it something that we can help you with, or do we need to refer you to the right resource to keep you moving along and progressing? So for example, say, you're struggling with a writing assignment or you're in a math class. Everybody loves math. We have the Success Center. And so if a student reached out saying, hey, I'm struggling with this, we would put you in contact with somebody either in the Writing Center or the Math Center. And I cannot stress how amazing those resources are. They've got tutorials, you can do one-on-one. So again, just a few different ways that we can support our students.
Fantastic. And I would love to get some input. I've got a question I want to pose to maybe Chris or Cinda around addressing questions students may have around the technology. This is a fully online program, and that means you have to have some sense of understanding around computers, technology, whether it's your desktop, your laptop, your cell phone, whatever. Can you share some thoughts around perhaps students who are a little concerned about going to school online and whether or not they have to be IT pros in order to make it work? Whether it's the platform, how easy the platform may be to use, or how much they need to know about technology to really succeed in their online courses?
For me personally, I don't think you need to be terribly tech savvy. I know I'm definitely not an IT professional. There's people to help you along the way, the advisors, and honestly, once you get on there and start playing with it, you're not going to hurt anything. So it's pretty easy to get on there and just navigate your way around.
Fantastic. So it's probably no more difficult than learning how to use Facebook. And if you could post things on Facebook or Reddit, you could probably do something in Blackboard. By the way, Blackboard is the environment in which our courses are offered. It's not Eventbrite. And there was a question there. This is just for the webinar. Our courses are in Blackboard, which is a learning management system that's used very commonly around the world for delivering online courses. Question for the instructors, Alan, Aaron, and anyone else. Online courses also sometimes have a perception of being one-sided, that it's you're answering questions in discussion threads or you're doing online coursework. But in reality, a very good online course is very good because it is engaging. Can you talk a little bit from the faculty perspective, how you're ensuring that students are engaged in their coursework and that every student has a front row seat to have some back and forth with you, not only from a support perspective, but to really absorb the knowledge, and that it's a two-way street? How do you make sure that happens in your classes?
Absolutely. I can speak to that a bit. One of the things I think that is so great about the CSU course assignments is the relevancy to which the student is able to apply what they're doing in their own department. And for example, in emergency services, we make it so that you actually take case studies in your own department and work those into assignments where you're actually solving problems and you're coming back with solutions. And so when those students give that feedback and say, hey, I'm facing this issue, whether it's a community risk reduction problem or whether it's an EMS challenge, we have them actually work through that problem. And many of those assignments build upon each other. Professors, we try to give individual and specific feedback to each student so that, they know that we're listening. Many of us have had those same type of problems or challenges before in departments that we were in. And so we can speak with kind of an air of, we've been there, we've seen that. So I think that's very important, where you actually take the learning experience of the student, consider the environment they're in. And some of us, like myself, have been in, volunteer, combination, and career departments. So we can speak to a wide variety of students and different, age groups too. Because I remember, when I was younger and at 18 years old, and what motivated me, and then going up through the ranks, how things evolve. So I think that individual feedback, though, is very, very important for each student's learning.
That's fantastic, and I can't stress enough how important subject matter expertise. We have professionals who are not just academic professionals, but have done the job in the vast majority of our courses. Dr. Rohn, if you want to talk a little bit about that, and also add any other thoughts on how you're making your classes as engaging as possible.
Dale, you kind of stole my thunder there, because we are practicing professionals. Chief Lewis and myself both come from career departments. I currently serve as a state EMS official. So, we are talking the talk. We are walking the walk with the students. And one of the great things about CSU is your courses here are designed and developed by the faculty that are teaching them. So we have academic freedom in developing them to keep them current and relevant. So it's not one of those ones where we're talking about disasters from 20 years ago. We're talking about things that are happening real time, real world, and we're able to apply that. And especially in the occupational health and safety fields, you're getting that real world experience that can say, when you're writing your plan, try this. This might work better for you. It's real, it's there. And it's, as Professor Lewis alluded to, we want you to succeed. We're facilitating your class. It's really your class. We're just there to help you grow.
I love that perspective. It's really your class. We're just there to help you grow. That's so important. I think it's probably even more so important in the fact that we're working primarily with adult students. They're partially through their career path or looking to switch to a career path, and we treat them like grown-ups, with certainly the responsibilities that are required for each course, but it truly is their class because they've earned that right in many ways. So that's exciting. I want to extend that same train of thought to the panelists who are students or alumni. Can you talk about a time when you were able to lean on your instructor to help guide you or help ensure your success in the course, particularly as you got later in the program and the courses got to be a little bit more specific towards the degree area? We'd love to hear any of your thoughts or stories on your partnership with instructors, even though they're online. That would be for Lurie, Scott, Jasmine, Christopher, Amy.
Yep.
Anyone.
I'll comment on it. I actually have found that going back to school online with all of my instructors, I've had really good relationships with. If I had a question, I could email them, I could call them, and they were always willing to help me be successful, even in some of my hardest classes, because I went back to school at 49 and I hadn't been in a math class or an English class in years. And between my instructors and the tools that CSU have, I just always felt that I could be successful.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Any other thoughts? Arsenio, you're still in the program. Amy's still in the program. Are you finding it in the ability to engage with faculty to kind of help lift you through their courses is a real thing that you're using?
Well, I can't say that I've kind of hit a wall yet and had to reach out to lean on someone, but I will say that I have had so many professors who are supportive and just out of the blue will send an email and say, hey, you know what? That paper you turned in was fantastic. Or, I had one that said, hey, look me up at graduation, I want to shake your hand. So, being in an online forum, you kind of worry about, how personal is this going to be? Am I going to be disconnected? But then when your professors send you emails like that, it reminds you that, hey, we are still connected and they're there if we need them.
That's great.
Dale, I jump right in there because, Amy, I have hit a wall. I am in a research class right now, and it is killing me. I mean, even tonight when I was logging in here, the professor sent out an email to or a text to all of us. It was just like, class, you guys are not getting it. This is what this means. This is what that means. You need to reach out to me so that I can help you get you back on course. I'm afraid to look at my grade from the paper from Tuesday. I don't want to look at it because I'm struggling in that class. So I've hit that wall, but I think that's one of the successes that Columbia Southern can really pat themselves on the back about, is that I've never felt like I was alone from signing up for my first class way back when till today, when the professor just is like, you guys, I need to get you back on course. And it's not about, well, you're an adult, you figure it out. I'm here to get a check, you're here to get a degree, let's meet somewhere in the middle. I mean, they really go above and beyond by giving you their personal cell phone numbers and saying, hey, you need to call me if you're struggling in this. And I'm at the point with this class. If I get a C, I've not gotten a C. I've always been on the honor roll since I've been in Columbia Southern. In this class, if I get a C, I feel like I've done something, because this research is killing me. So that's the wall that I've hit. But it's refreshing to know that the instructor is still like, okay, let me reach out, let me extend myself, again, and even offering the opportunity for most of us, because I think all of us are struggling in this class, to resubmit the assignment so that our grades don't reflect who we really are. So
that's fantastic.
Okay, if I can add something to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so in my case, one thing that really helps me in CSU is the fact that the live chat, because the thing is that, and before coming to CSU, I obviously had some correspondence with some other universities as well. And really the main thing here is that in general, even if you have a question or if you have a concern or anything, they answer right away. So for me, that's really helpful. I mean, compared to some other universities, when you send in an email or something and you get a reply in a week, I mean, that week could get really stressing at times. So that's one thing that I really like about CSU, and certainly a primary reason why my journey here has been really smooth sailing so far.
That's fantastic. I want to also introduce another panelist that I hadn't got a chance to yet. Shane Zimmerman, I can see you online. You are a fellow Floridian. Hopefully you've been avoiding the weather that is headed my way. But if you want to introduce yourself briefly, tell us about who you are and your connection to CSU.
Good evening, everybody. And you probably noticed I keep looking off to the side here. I've got my other screen on. I am just to the slight northeast of Orlando, and I'm in the path as well. Dale, where are you at?
I'm in Lake Mary.
Okay, so I'm in Grand Island, Eustis area, so it's coming to us.
Yes, it is.
It's been a very busy few days. So I work as a site safety manager for an electrical company. I also have my own fire and safety consulting firm here in Florida that I'm just launching off the ground. I'm also emergency and disaster response and preparedness. So I'm just waiting for a phone call to see if I'm rolling out the door. I've been a CSU student since 2016. I've completed my associates in fire science, and I'm currently in the Homeland Security program, and my end game is emergency services management, the master's program. I've had a very pleasant experience with CSU. I have no intentions of going to any other school, and I feel like I'm kind of the poster child for incomplete course special circumstances, and some of the faculty may recognize my name. I've been extended extraordinary leniency in the program when my brother died. I was due to complete a course in May, and I just completed the course last week, and I managed to finish with a 4.0. I'm sorry, I get really emotional about this because this school has been very supportive, and Nicole Hill's been an amazing academic advisor. And Professor Michael Simmons. I actually went 10 days beyond the maximum incomplete course special circumstances, because during all of this, my brother passing away and dealing with his estate, and then having to relocate and come home. So I can't praise the school enough for their support and everything. And I enjoy the online experience. And there are some people out there that could. We all hear them. Oh, you went to online college. It's not the same as going to a university. You know what? You're right. It's not. It's harder because we don't have the face-to-face instructors at the university, and some of the resources, the not necessarily convenience, because I think technology is more convenient than having to walk halfway across campus to a library. And but the accessibility to the professors and the advisors, the writing center, there is not a research paper I've submitted without it going through the writing center. And yes, I use Grammarly, but that even the writing center will find errors that Grammarly didn't. And so I'm very pleased with my experience with CSU, and highly recommend this school for anybody. And working in fire, EMS, hazmat, safety, and emergency response, the flexibility is pretty extraordinary.
That is great. Thank you for your story. And I got to tell you, it's a fitting reminder that any good college, any college worth their salt, and unfortunately, some institutions have really forgotten this, it's about the students, not about the faculty or the school. We exist for the students, number one, and their employers, number two, because you have to apply that education to a career field. And if you keep that in the forefront, what you get out of that are the kind of interactions you've had, because it's easy to accept a check and in exchange for content, and there's nothing wrong with that. But making sure it's about the students and creating a personal relationship, even though you're online, that's the difference maker. But you also can't finish if you don't start. And we've gotten a lot of questions via the Q&A about admissions. And so I want to ask a question. I'm going to roll out and refer to our admissions leaders. We've got a couple on the line here with us, Cindy and Jessica. Can you talk a little bit about the transfer credit process and the rules of engagement in terms of the maximum credits that can be brought into a program, which I think would surprise some folks, and how you go through the process of evaluating transfer credits, whether it be transcripts, prior learning assessments, etc. So Jessica and Cindy, maybe you can speak to that briefly. Introduce yourselves and then speak to it.
Perfect. Yes, I am Cindy Cherrybow. I'm the Director of Admissions. And that is a very common question that we do get here in admissions. CSU is super transfer friendly. So we are going to take a look at copies of your transcripts and evaluate them for the max number of transfer credits. So in a degree program that's undergraduate, that can be 45 credits for an associate's program. That can be 90 credits max in an undergraduate program, 18 credits in a graduate program, and 9 credit hours in a DBA program. Now, we don't just look at the experience or at your college transcripts, but we look at your experience too. So if you have certifications that you've completed on the job training, send those in to us. That's something that other schools don't consider as transfer credit, but CSU does. A lot of our students, they have been in the workforce, and you learn so much in the workforce, and we want to accept that credit because there's a lot of skill to be gained from that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Dale, I'd like to also add on to what Cindy said. My name's Jessica. I'm a supervisor in admissions. But kind of going along with that experience and the certificates that you may obtain, from your career and working in the field already, military is my specialty, but we do look at the training that our military members have. So it's surprising. A lot of people might think, like, if, for example, someone did infantry, they're like, how do I apply that to academic credit? But you can get so many credits for that. So again, like Cindy said, we look at everything, no matter the background. So please send in everything and anything, and we will look at that for transfer credit to help you out.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. And I know also when when transcripts and others are provided, it's really a very short period of time before those estimates are provided back to you as an applying student. So you don't have to wait, and you can learn firsthand. Going along with that, I want to ask for those panelists who are students or alumni, if you could nod or raise your hand if you paid for some, most, or all of your degree out of your own pocket. I know some of you were covered by your employer, but anybody here paid for it themselves? Excellent. So affordability is a big deal for you. Can you talk about how you went through the process of comparing, if you did comparing the cost basis of tuition and going to school and going back to school with CSU versus other institutions, and how you saw it compare from an overall cost perspective? Scott, maybe you can start off.
No, absolutely. So obviously, being on the job, we got a bunch of different people that went to a bunch of different universities, and it actually held a lot of people back specifically from earning their degrees and going for promotions, which is what a lot of our people use it for. A lot of the other colleges around, people are thinking, well, I'm 10 years into my career. By the time I get my educational incentives and I, weigh what I paid versus what I'm going to get, they actually don't go back. So for a lot of our people, 10 years is the mark. However, hearing some of them saying it's it's $30,000 to go and get an associate or a bachelor's degree rather online. And then I tell them what CSU was with the affordability, and then also some of the partner discounts that are involved as well, which help lower that cost. It's roughly half, if not more than half of what it would typically be at any other university. So a lot of our people are actually going to, I've talked to a bunch of them, and they will be attending CSU. So I'm happy to report that.
That's great. Anyone else want to share their perspectives on, making it fit, making college fit, not just the tuition, but how you made it work out in terms of your finances and budget and priorities? And Jasmine, Lurie, Amy, I know you raised your hand as far as paying for yourselves. How'd you make it work? I mean, it's as reasonable, and trust me, I've worked with a lot of colleges. CSU is the most affordable I've seen in the market, but it's not free. How do you make that decision around spending money to go back to school when there are other things you want to spend money on?
It was the same thing as Scott said. With promotional opportunities, it was the same exact move. It was the same move. So
let me see
I knew I had to do it. I'm sorry, I'm getting
Sure.
an echo. Is somebody else speaking? Is that me?
I think they mute. You're fine. Yep.
Oh no, it was the same exact thing. I knew I had to go back, so it was just something that I needed to do, and it had to be done. So.
You want me to? And that's a lot. That was a lot with me too. I had some life events that happened that made me decide to go back to school. And when I looked at going back to school, I wanted to go to a college that actually offered a degree program instead of just a certificate in safety. And then it was, Columbia Southern includes your books, and you don't have that expense on top of everything else. And you have the writing center, and you have the math center. And those were all in my decision to go to CSU. And my husband actually was very supportive of me going back to school. So I had that in my favor too.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I think you made some really good points there in that the tuition is certainly very reasonable, but the add-in to that tuition and what you get for no additional charge other than a small tech fee, a more library fee, is all the support. And we encourage students to take advantage of it. Jackie and Justin and the teams are incredible, and they're there for you to help push you through the finish line, because we're about you and achieving your goals. Jamie, I see you just came on. You have a lot of experience both as a student and an instructor with CSU. I'd love to get your thoughts on what faculty and students can do to make sure they're meeting each other halfway. At the end of the day, and I had someone put this to me years and years ago, they said that college's job is between zero, and the goal is to put hurdles, because every time you cross the hurdle, you learn something, you get better, but you got to kind of meet them halfway. I'd love to get your sense from your experience, Jamie, particularly in such in programs that are so critical. You don't want someone to kind of learn safety or to kind of learn criminal justice or to kind of learn emergency management. They really need to know it. How do you make sure that students can graduate, but also they know their stuff when they graduate?
Well, honestly, I think an important component to being a faculty member is, more importantly, being a coach. And and that's what I do, is I make myself available. Some of my most favorite assignments in my previous law enforcement agencies that I've worked at was that of being a field training officer, and they call them FTOs. So developing people and helping people to succeed. That's why I'm here. That's why I do it. I would do it for free, just because I love doing it. And I love watching and seeing people grow and thrive and be successful, and helping them on that path of whatever career that may be. Sometimes it's criminal justice. Sometimes it's homeland security. Sometimes it's something completely different. And so I've always made myself available via email, but also, even more importantly, via phone, text, setting up phone conversations. I've had many times where I've spoken to students on the phone for hours at a time, discussing career trajectories, those that might be interested in teaching, kind of going down the same path that I did, transitioning from student to professor, and then helping them kind of navigate those roads and helping them along that way. But meeting them halfway is as a professor, I feel like I've failed if they have failed, right? So I do everything that I can and in my power to help them be successful. Now, granted, they have to put in the work, and they do have to show their ability to move forward in the class, but you help them along that journey. And as long as they're making that progress and you're helping them and you're seeing that progress, then it's a win-win. And, and students become successful, and then they get motivated. I've been with CSU since 2001. So I'm a kind of a dinosaur, and I've been around for a while, and myself as a student, 2001 with a bachelor's in business, and then 2005 with the MBA in public admin. And one would think that I was done with school, and I'm not. Like, I went back and got a second master's degree at another institution in Boston, and now in the dissertation phase of finishing my doctorate at Liberty. So CSU for me inspired me to be a lifelong learner, and I think I want to pay that forward to my students and try to inspire them to become lifelong learners too. That's fantastic.
That is fantastic. I love the coach analogy. I'm sure the students on the panel, alumni on our panel, can relate to that coach relationship. That is fantastic. I'm wondering, one of the questions I get a lot in terms of students going back to school is they're afraid they're going to be isolated. We've talked a lot about the engagement with support personnel, with faculty, but I'd be curious from, Christopher, Amy, or some of the others, what kind of engagement are you able to have with other students in a class, whether it be discussion threads, whether it be team assignment, whatever opportunities exist? Are you all alone? Do you get to know any other students? If you go to graduation, do you get to meet people that you've been talking with off and on in other classes? Give me a sense of that experience, if you would.
I kind of feel like the discussion boards drive interaction, to be honest. You're required to respond to another student, so it really drives the interaction, and you do get to know the other students in the course of that.
That's great.
Well, and on those discussion boards, you see who's in your class. And so depending on, what you're getting your degree in, and if you're in major, a class that's, for your major, you start to see certain names in multiple classes. So you already know a little of their story if you are actually, doing what you're supposed to on the discussion boards. People ask me all the time, what are discussion boards? And I tell them it's basically classroom discussion, as if we were in person, but we're typing it all out. So, if you complete the discussion boards, as you should, and as they're meant to be, then you really are having good conversation and learning about your classmates.
That's fantastic. And I'd love to get a sense, Shane, Jasmine, Scott, Vera, Lori, in programs where the discipline is very vocational, fire, emergency, police, etc. I would imagine the interaction with other students who are in your same field actually adds value. Does it actually add value to your coursework, and that you're able to talk shop, but you're all kind of going to the same goal? I'd love to get a sense of if you see that as part of your experience in some of your classes.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've actually, I'm fortunate in that in my previous department, I had a lot of my coworkers sign up for Columbia Southern because of everything that I preach about it. I'm a walking knight. And then in my current department, there are 4 current students in my current department. So they always pop in my office and it's like, hey, I'm taking this class. What do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? So I'm fortunate to have just that interaction right there in my department with other students. And then attending graduation, you just hear names and you go, oh, wait a minute, I had a class with that person. And then you get to, kind of meet and say, because, when you're online, you don't know what other grades people are getting. But when you see them at graduation, they did well. So it's like you get that opportunity to have that conversation and say, what'd you think about that course or this particular assignment? And I think that engagement actually helps, especially when it's in the same field. And what I liked about the graduation is that they did shout out, each one of our careers and had us stand up if you were in certain fields and stuff. So then you got to actually put names with faces of people that you were in class with.
That's great. Laura, you were going to add something. I want to go to Dr. Ronan and Alan to get their input from a faculty perspective. But Laura, you were going to say.
Yeah, I really, with being in the occupational safety and health with the classes that I have had, and when, usually your first discussion is, introduce yourself and what you do and what are your goals and stuff. That's one of my favorite parts of class, because you really get to see where everybody's from, maybe where they're at in their journey, where they're headed in their journey, and it makes you be able to relate to them more. It's just amazing that you are in school with people all across the world. I mean, it's just not even in the United States, it's all across the world.
That's very cool. Very cool. Dr. Ron, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, I do. And it kind of alludes to the conversation here of learning from everybody else. We as faculty are learning from you too. There are sometimes in emergency services where we become very myopic and we only see our individual agency or our state or our community. But having students from all across the country or connecting with faculty from all across the country, we're able to learn too to better the system. So it's not just that we're helping you achieve your academic goals. Jamie mentioned it earlier that we're lifelong learners. We always try to keep pushing for that too. So our students help us learn by bringing up something that may be unique or localized to them that we don't know about.
Absolutely. Alan, would you like to add to that? You've probably learned from your students as well, I would assume.
Oh, I definitely learned from my students. And I would say that especially, there was mention made about students from all over the world. And I really have a kind of a heart for those that are, kind of forward deployed in some of the environments that we see, because I know when I finished my bachelor's degree, I literally finished it from, part of Iraq, northern Iraq. So I know what it's like to be in a hostile environment, to have internet go down, to go into what they called comms black for, periods of time where you just didn't have communication. So I have a great level of understanding and empathy for the students that are in those situations that are, mission dependent and things like that. And yeah, the lessons that they bring and the things that they have gone through, I think, and the stories that they can relate that have relevance to the course are very educational for me. And yeah, they teach me stuff all of the time, especially when it comes to, new ways of doing things with technology and programming. And I get to learn so much about the departments that people are part of. So it's a great clearinghouse of information as well.
That's fantastic. I think, again, that goes to not only the sharing of expertise back and forth, but the fact that distance learning doesn't have to mean you're at a distance. I like to say every student in our university has a front row seat. I remember going to traditional college and being in an auditorium with, 20 to 100 students at times. But at CSU, every student has a front row seat with the instructor, with other students, with their support advisors and personnel. So you get that individual attention that's so critical when you're trying to balance all those things. I'm going to touch on admissions just for a minute. And then when we finish up, I'm going to go to every one of our panelists and just ask them to kind of share a word or two of wisdom for someone thinking about going to school and wondering if they could do it. So think about that. But before I do, I want to go back to Jessica and Cindy. If you could talk through just what the process is. I'm thinking of going back to school. What are the steps they have to take from their conversation with you, application, enrollment, financial aid, choosing their format, and then actually enrolling in a class? Talk very briefly about how that works, and then I'll go to the panel and we'll wrap up with some great words of wisdom.
Yeah, sure. Cindy, I'll go ahead and take over for this one. But like Dale said, once you apply, we have a wonderful team who can actually help you with that application initially. We can help you with that over the phone or walk you through completing that through our website. But once that application is received, you will be assigned a personal admissions counselor who is that person to take you through the entire admissions process up until enrollment. So they would work with you to figure out, what transcripts do we need depending on your payment method, what documents would we need. So for example, if you're using financial aid, what FAFSA documents would be needed. And then going over those deadlines, because as previous, we offer term or life-based learning. And then really, once we get those transcripts for your evaluation, that's completed, all of the payment method documentation, going through getting documentation. I keep saying that because that's really what we do, is just work with getting those papers on file for you. Then we're there to really help you figure out, when do you want to get started? If you, get evaluated for multiple programs, which one do you want to choose? Which path do you want to go? What is your goal? That's our goal, is to help you achieve yours. And just really submit the enrollment. It's super easy. You can do it online, or again, we can help you with that over the phone. And it's a really smooth process and transition into the student side. So again, you'll have someone with you every step of the way. But then we also have, our rotation and email and everything that you can reach out if your counselor is not available. So we're always available to help you with that. So
fantastic. And I know we've got folks like Justin on the phone. It's not just during the initial enrollment process. As you go through your program, they're there to help you in terms of planning your next courses, enrolling, switching formats, whatever makes sense for you. I can say the team at CSU, they do the legwork so that you can focus on your studies, because that is enough. Trust me. Asking the balances, it's enough to focus on your studies without having to worry about logistics of getting class to class. So thank you for that. We have about 6 minutes left. I'm going to go back to our panelists and go through one by one in the same way that I had them introduce themselves, and ask them if they would share, if they were in the elevator with someone and they heard someone say, I just don't think I can go to school. I'm thinking about going to school. I just don't think I could do it. And if they were to turn to that person and say, here's how to get it done. Here's a word of wisdom or a phrase of wisdom. We'd love to hear that from you. So Jamie, maybe we'll start with you. What's your words of wisdom for someone who says, I'm thinking about going to school, but I'm just not sure I can do
it? They can do it. Focus, determination, and perseverance. You have an amazing support system here. So take that first step, and before you know it, you'll be crossing that finish line.
That's great. Dr. Rohn, similar question, but someone says, I'm thinking about going to school. I'm thinking about going to school online, and that scares me because I don't want to be out there by myself. What would you tell them?
Well, you're definitely never by yourself here. I've said it in meetings with other staff and through people who are interested. CSU really is a family, and it's not just a family of faculty. It's a family of faculty and students who are there to further their education. You'll never be alone. There's plenty of tools in the toolbox and great resources from your academic advisors to the librarians to even the Writing Center and Math Center support staff through student success.
Fantastic. Alan Lewis, I'm coming to you. Someone says, I'm thinking of going back to school, but I'm in the military or I have a job that takes me all over the world. There's just no way because we all have to log in at the same time, or I just can't fit it into 5 different time zones. What would you say to them?
I would say I can relate to that. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Do it. Take that first course and keep at it. Even if you can only take one course a semester. And sometimes that was all that I could handle at a time, was just doing the one. Of course, I was doing my EFO program simultaneously with doing my master's. So if you're a glutton for punishment, I would recommend that. Otherwise, I would say try to pace yourself. Because it can be a lot. But yeah, it's important to just get it started. Get that transcript evaluation done. Get that evaluation done so at least you know what you need to accomplish, and then move on from that goal.
Excellent. Amy John, someone says to you, I'm older. I haven't been to school in 20, 25 years. I'm too late. It's too late for me to start. What would you tell them?
Well, I was that person for 25 years. I said, I don't have enough time to go back to school and finish what I started. I've got kids. The kids are in activities. I've got work. We've got a business. I already work 6 days a week. I made every excuse known to man. And finally, after my oldest graduated from high school, I said, you know what? It's time. I got to quit making excuses. I have to change my attitude about it. I have to stop saying I can't, and I have to say I can, and I'll do it. So it's having the right mindset, and let's be real though, you do have to understand what you can handle yourself, and you have to be gracious with yourself because there will be hard times. But like Alan said, take that first step and you'll fly.
That's fantastic. Christopher Hall. So we heard Amy talk about the ability to go back to school even when you're older. I'd like to reverse that. What would you tell someone who was maybe in their mid-20s and said, I've got plenty of time. I could start now, but maybe I'll wait. What would you tell them as far as maybe thinking hard about that question or that decision?
I'd tell them not to procrastinate because I was one of the procrastinators. I was 30 years out of high school before I went back to college. So, and then you go back and you realize that, hey, this isn't so bad. And you set your goals and you make them attainable and you keep driving. And before you know it, you're finishing up. And I could have done all this 20 years ago and been on a different path. So I would say, do it now.
That's fantastic. Do it. Don't just do it. Right. Harsunda, I'm not sure if you're still joining. If you are, I'd love to ask you your thoughts on if someone were to ask you about pacing and can they work college into their schedule, would pacing be an advantage for you if you were attending CSU? I'm not sure if you're on because you're on mute. That's right. We'll come back to you. Right, oh, there you are. Great. Yeah. So talk about kind of the pacing and working on your own pace and what advantage that may have given you as far as CSU is concerned.
Yeah, I think one line that everyone needs to keep in mind, and this is one that my parents always use, is that if there's a will, there's a way. So in my case, I've been in CSU for 13 months so far, and pacing has been tremendous for me because I'm already in my 3rd year of my program. So obviously in CSU, there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of helpful people who are there with you every step of the way. So that's not really been a problem for me. I'm sure it's not been a problem for anyone else as well. So I think with online education, and particularly with CSU, one of the biggest benefits is that you can just work at any time that you like and you can work on your own pace. So it's been phenomenal for me, and it's certainly something that I don't think anyone should have any problems with.
Fantastic. Jasmine, you're kind of doing it all. You got kids, and I got 2 boys, so I know what that's all about. Kids, you're in the fire space, going to school and all that. How do you juggle? If somebody says there's just no way I can do all those things, it's impossible. It's literally impossible. What would you tell them?
I have 2 boys as well. I say it's very much possible. There's a will, there's a way. I say if you really want to do it, you'll get it done. Anything that you want to do, you put your mind to it, you will get it done. Make it happen and get it done, complete it. Education is something that no one can take away from you, and it's important. So complete it, get it done, make it happen.
That's
Put your mind
fantastic.
to it.
That is fantastic. So, Lori, you have a passion for safety. I see here in your bio. I'd love for you to say, someone says, well, I love my job. Why should I get a degree? What would you tell them that, a degree brings to them in terms of their career prospects?
That dreams do come true. You just have to strive for it. You have to want it, and you have to know that you're worth it. I think that is a very large piece of going back to school. And, the days that you think you can't go any further, you look and you see what you've accomplished already and know that you can take 10 more steps forward and it'll be okay. CSU just really offers that to an older student going back to school.
That's great. That's fantastic. Scott, going to you, reading your bio, I'd love to get your feedback on someone who says, I'm fast. I want to get it done as quickly as possibly can. I know this stuff, and the faster I can get it done with a great grade would be great, but no college will support me specifically on my time frame. What would you tell them?
So for me personally, obviously CSU was a complete support for me. Actually, I figured out the math, and from the date of my first assignment submission till my last assignment submission was 139 days, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree from an associate's. I don't know. Thank you. I'm not a genius. I'm a fireman. That's what I do. But with the support and the academic advising and everything else that CSU offers, it really is possible. And ultimately for me, it was a promotion. I knew it might be coming down the pipe. I thought to myself, hey, let's see what can happen. I know this is going to be a requirement. And specifically for us in the fire and emergency services field, back in the day, associates was kind of the entry level standard. What I'm personally seeing now is that bachelor's degrees are becoming almost the standard for any promotion above and beyond entry level. So it's absolutely something that can be done. I know Jasmine hit on it. Everybody said it. If there's a will, there's a way. There absolutely is. Put your mind to it. If you can have that end goal in mind and do it, you absolutely can. The same thing for me. I've got 3 kids, a wife, a full-time job, and I was able to do it. So if I can say anything, if you find that end goal, shoot for the stars, and I guarantee you'll make it.
Fantastic. Last couple of folks. Vera, would love to get your thoughts on someone who says, I'd love to go back to school, but a traditional college wouldn't work for me. I don't think there's anyone out there who can deal with me as an adult student specifically. They all say it, but our college is really set up for adult students. What would you say to them about CSU?
I would tell them, that CSU is designed for adults. They have hit the mark as it relates to adult learning. There's no failure is not an option with CSU. There's too much support. There's overwhelming support. So if there's any obstacle that you're going to face, there's someone that you can call on, whether it's a faculty member or another student. There's always someone that will be there for you to help you get through that as an adult. So failure is just not an option with CSU. And that's one of the things that I love about it.
That's fantastic. And Shane, I want to go to you last. You told us some tremendous stories of your experience. And first of all, I want to thank you for hanging in there through the hurricane and your job, but would love to get your closing thought on how to take it bite by bite. I think a lot of folks say, I want to get a degree. That's a lot of classes. They see it as this big mountain they want to climb. But I think your perspective, and you noted this in your bio, your perspective about taking it step by step. What would you tell someone who said it's just too big of a pie for me to eat? What would you tell them?
Well, pie is delicious, so you just take one bite at a time, man. It is a huge undertaking. Let's be real, all right? Yeah. It is a huge undertaking. But if you look at that mountain as, holy Nikes, that's a mountain, then you're not going to want to climb that mountain. If you look at that, it's like, well, that's a molehill that's going to become a mountain. That mountain is my degree. So I'm just going to climb this little molehill. Let me just get to this one, right? Just go one class. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't get your academic advising and you don't take that first step, right? So, and that's what I did. And just to back up on one little side point, I was able to transfer in 42 credit hours because of individual fire service classes that I took and certifications in fire officer and fire inspector. So much of my job task training converted. So I was halfway up the mountain. Didn't even know I was halfway up the mountain. And so if you take that first step and yep, it's a huge piece of pie, but just take one slice and get started with that one. And then the nice thing about the program at CSU is that you can complete that one, take a minute. It's like, okay, I need a few weeks and not necessarily jump right into the next one. I've been on projects where I was fortunate enough working an overnight shift where it was tremendously slow, and in 5 months completed 3 classes or 2.5. I got 2.5 classes done in a very short period of time. And then there was times like here recently where it took me 8 months almost 8 months to finish one course. And so every bite you take of that, I like the analogy. So obviously every little bite that you take of this large pie, you will reach the point where it's done. And then you're going to want another piece, right? Then you're going to, okay, I got my associates. Okay. Well, now let's get the large pie now. Let's go for that bachelor's program. Oh, wow. I've completed this one. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not quite full yet. So let's go for the extra large and let's get our master's. Then you finish that and you're like, well, all right, now I'm getting somewhere. Yeah, we might as well go for the mega grande and let's get the PhD, right? Might as well go full circle on the whole food analogy, right? And it's possible. I live in Dale. Obviously, we're neighbors. I got to be careful how I say these certain things, because I'm a Gator fan. My niece is a Gator. I used to live in Ocala. I forgot how many times I've been to the Swamp. That's right. I looked into the College of Emergency Services up there, and it was tremendously expensive and next to impossible to get into. Mm-hmm. It required all the admissions for a regular full-blown 4-year program, ACT, all that stuff. And I was a B and C high school student, and I am a 4.0 college student, and I'm pretty darn proud of that. And it's because I just took one bite at a time.
There you go.
That's it.
Bravo.
That's how you do
it. That's a great closing words. And I will say also, I'm going to have some apple pie after this because you got me thinking about it, and roll tide. But anyway, listen, I want to thank everyone on our panel today for joining us. Your words of wisdom were incredible. Hearing it from the horse's mouth, per se, was fantastic. I know the folks who were able to attend the event live and those who are going to be watching this on a recording will get so much out of what you said. I want to congratulate those of you who graduated. I want to congratulate those of you who are about to graduate. And I want to pre-congratulate those of you who are students that are on your path. You have done such amazing work. And I've worked, again, with a lot of students at a lot of colleges. I am far more impressed by an adult student who goes back to school or a student who goes to school while they're working. I'm so much more impressed by their efforts and your accomplishments than those who have done it traditionally. Although they've done great things, what you're doing is so much more difficult and hopefully brings so much more value to yourselves, to your families, to your companies, and to your community. So congratulations to you. Kudos for everything you've done. Thank you so much for joining us. To the CSU staff who've joined and have been answering dozens of questions on the Q&A, I want to thank you very much for your time. I kept you about 10 minutes over, but it was well worth it. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Shane, stay safe in the hurricane. That's dating this webinar. If you watch in the future, you'll know when it was. The great hurricane that hit Florida. But listen, have a great evening. Thank you so very much for your time. And go Knights.